Grab a cup of coffee and buckle up for this wild ride through the Colorado wilderness. My name's Mike, and I'm about to tell you a tale that'll make your hair stand on end. I witnessed a Sasquatch carrying a full-grown mule deer across a mountain highway at 2 a.m., and that's just the beginning. What happened afterward was so unbelievable I can hardly wrap my head around it, even though there was solid evidence captured on our Dashcam. First, let me introduce my girlfriend, Emma. We've been dating for about 3 years now, inseparable since our junior year of college. Our shared passion for hiking, camping, and exploring the great outdoors has taken us all over the country, but nothing could have prepared us for what we encountered on that fateful night in the Rocky Mountains. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. It all started with a simple weekend getaway. After weeks of grinding away at our respective jobs, me at a software company and Emma finishing her master's thesis in wildlife biology, we both desperately needed to escape the city and recharge our batteries. The mountains were calling, as they often did, and we decided to answer. "Hey babe, what do you think about heading up to Rocky Mountain National Park this weekend?" I asked Emma one Wednesday evening as we were making dinner in our small Denver apartment. "The weather forecast looks perfect, and I could really use some mountain air." Emma's face lit up at the suggestion. "That sounds amazing. I've been cooped up in the lab too long. Plus, I could get some field work done for my thesis if we go to the Western Valley area." Her enthusiasm was contagious, and we immediately started planning our trip. We decided to leave Friday after work, spend Saturday hiking and exploring, and then head back Sunday afternoon. A short trip, but exactly what we needed to refresh our spirits. Friday arrived, and after finishing up at the office, I rushed home to find Emma already packing our camping gear into her Subaru Forester. She had installed a new Dashcam just a week earlier, a fancy model that recorded in high definition and had night vision capabilities. She was passionate about documenting wildlife, and the Dashcam had already captured some impressive footage of elk and bighorn sheep on our previous mountain drives. "Got everything?" I asked, tossing my backpack into the trunk. Emma nodded, checking off items on her meticulously prepared list. Tent, sleeping bags, cooking gear, first aid kit, bear spray. Yep, we're good to go. We hit the road around 6 p.m., later than we had planned, but still with plenty of daylight left to reach our destination. The drive from Denver to Rocky Mountain National Park usually takes about 2 hours, winding through stunning mountain landscapes and charming small towns. As we drove, our conversation flowed easily from work stories to future travel plans, with our favorite indie rock playlist providing the soundtrack to our journey. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in stunning shades of orange and pink as we climbed higher into the mountains. "God, I needed this," Emma sighed contentedly, gazing out at the breathtaking scenery around us. "Sometimes I forget how beautiful it is up here." I reached over and squeezed her hand. "Me too. It's like the mountains have this way of putting everything into perspective, you know?" Emma smiled, her eyes reflecting the golden light of the setting sun. "That's why I could never live anywhere without mountains. They remind me of how small we really are in the grand scheme of things." As darkness fell, the road became more challenging, with sharp turns and steep drops. Emma was a skilled driver, especially on mountain roads, but we were both getting tired as we approached the park entrance. "Why don't we find a spot to camp just outside the park tonight?" I suggested, noticing Emma stifling a yawn. "We can enter the park first thing tomorrow morning." Emma agreed, and we began looking for a suitable campsite along the Forest Service roads that bordered the national park. After about 20 minutes of searching, we found a perfect spot, a small clearing surrounded by tall pines not far from a babbling creek. It was nearly 10 p.m. by the time we had set up our tent and prepared a simple dinner of sandwiches and trail mix. As we sat by our small campfire, The stars emerged above us in a dazzling display that you can only see far from city lights. The Milky Way stretched across the sky like a celestial highway, and occasional meteors streaked through the darkness. "Look," Emma pointed excitedly. "A shooting star." I watched as the bright light traced a path across the night sky before disappearing. "Make a wish," I said, smiling at her childlike wonder. Emma closed her eyes for a moment, then looked at me with a mysterious smile. "Not telling what I wished for. It won't come true if I do." We stayed up a while longer, the crackling fire and the chorus of night creatures creating the perfect wilderness soundtrack. Eventually, though, exhaustion caught up with us, and we decided to turn in for the night. Our tent was cozy and warm, despite the mountain chill that had settled around us. Nestled in our sleeping bags, we fell asleep almost immediately, lulled by the gentle sounds of the forest. I'm not sure how long we had been asleep when Emma shook me awake. "Mike," she whispered urgently. "Do you hear that?" I groggily sat up, rubbing my eyes. "Hear what?" Then I heard it, a crashing sound in the underbrush surrounding our campsite, followed by what could only be described as a low, guttural growl. It wasn't a bear or a mountain lion, it was something different. Emma reached for her flashlight. "Something's out there." Before I could stop her, she unzipped the tent and poked her head outside, sweeping the beam of her flashlight across the campsite. I quickly joined her, my heart pounding in my chest. The campfire had died down to glowing embers, casting an eerie red glow over the clearing. At first, I didn't see anything unusual, just the dark silhouettes of trees against the starry sky. But then, at the edge of the clearing, something moved. It was massive, whatever it was, standing at least 7 feet tall. For a split second, the light from Emma's flashlight caught what looked like 2 reflective eyes, set deep in a face that seemed covered in dark fur. Then it was gone, melting back into the forest with surprising speed and silence for something so large. "What the hell was that?" I whispered, my voice shaking slightly. Emma didn't answer right away, still scanning the tree line with her flashlight. "I don't know," she finally said. "Too big for a bear, and it moved on 2 legs." We stayed still for several minutes, listening intently, but the forest had gone unnaturally quiet. No crickets, no owls, nothing. Just an oppressive silence. That felt more threatening than any noise. "Let's get out of here," I said, already backing into the tent to grab our essentials. Emma nodded, her scientist's curiosity apparently overridden by instinctive caution. "Yeah, I think that's a good idea." We hastily stuffed our sleeping bags and a few important items into our backpacks, leaving the tent and the rest of our camping gear behind. We could come back for it in the morning, when daylight made everything less terrifying. The Subaru was parked about 50 yards from our tent, and those 50 yards suddenly seemed like a mile. We moved quickly and quietly, constantly scanning the darkness around us. The forest remained silent, which somehow made the situation even more unnerving. We reached the car without incident, and Emma fumbled with the keys, her hands trembling slightly. As soon as we were inside with the doors locked, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. The familiar interior of the Subaru felt like a fortress against whatever was lurking in the darkness. "What do you think it was?" I asked as Emma started the engine. She shook her head, reversing carefully onto the narrow forest road. "I don't know, but it was big. Really big." As we pulled away from the campsite, I noticed Emma activating the dashcam, which we normally turned off when parked. "Just in case," she explained, catching my questioning look. "If there's anything out there, I want it on camera." The Forest Service road was rough and winding, made more challenging by the darkness. Emma drove slowly, her knuckles white on the steering wheel as she navigated the uneven terrain. We were both tense, scanning the road ahead and the forest on either side. "Where are we going?" I asked, realizing I hadn't actually thought beyond get away from the campsite. Emma kept her eyes on the road. I thought we'd head to Grand Lake. There's a 24-hour diner there where we can get some coffee and figure out our next move. It was a solid plan. Grand Lake was a small town at the western entrance of Rocky Mountain National Park, about 40 minutes from our current location. We could make it there easily, even at our cautious pace. The Forest Service Road eventually connected to Highway 34, a more substantial two-lane road that wound through the mountains. Emma relaxed slightly as we hit the smoother pavement, increasing our speed to a comfortable 45 miles per hour. For about 20 minutes, we drove in relative silence, the tension from our campsite encounter gradually dissipating. The highway was completely deserted at this hour, not surprising given it was now around 2 a.m. on a Friday night in a remote part of Colorado. We rounded a sharp bend, and Emma suddenly slammed on the brakes, causing the car to skid slightly before coming to a halt. "Oh my God," she breathed, staring wide-eyed through the windshield. There, illuminated in our headlights, stood a creature that defied explanation. It was enormous, at least 8 feet tall, covered in thick, dark hair that looked matted and wild. Its broad shoulders and massive arms supported what appeared to be a full-grown mule deer, draped limply across its shoulders. The creature's face was partially obscured by shadow, but I could make out deep-set eyes that reflected our headlights with an eerie glow. For what felt like an eternity, but was probably only a few seconds, we sat frozen in our seats, staring at the impossible sight before us. The creature stared back, seemingly as surprised by our presence as we were by its. "The Dashcam," I whispered urgently. "Is it recording?" Emma nodded wordlessly, her eyes never leaving the creature. Then, with a fluid motion that belied its massive size, the creature turned and loped into the forest, still carrying the deer as if it weighed nothing. Within seconds, it had disappeared among the trees, leaving us sitting in stunned silence on the empty highway. "Did we just—" Emma began, her voice barely audible. "See Bigfoot?" "Yeah, I think we did." I finished for her, my mind struggling to process what my eyes had just witnessed. Emma put the car in park and turned to me, her face pale in the dim light of the dashboard. "And we got it on camera." The magnitude of what had just happened began to sink in. We had potentially captured clear, high-definition footage of a Sasquatch, the cryptid that had eluded definitive documentation for decades, despite countless claimed sightings and blurry photographs. "We should check the footage," I said, reaching for Emma's phone, which was connected to the dashcam. Emma grabbed my arm, stopping me. "Not here. Let's get to Grand Lake first." She was right, of course. Sitting parked on a deserted mountain highway in the middle of the night, right where we had just seen an 8-foot-tall cryptid, was not the smartest move. I nodded, and Emma put the car back in drive. As we continued toward Grand Lake, my mind raced with questions. What did we just see? Was it really a Sasquatch, or was there some rational explanation? And if it was a Sasquatch, what would we do with the footage? Emma seemed to be having similar thoughts. "If this is real, Mike, it changes everything," she said, her scientist's mind clearly already considering the implications. "It would be the most significant cryptozoological discovery in history." I nodded, still trying to wrap my head around what we had witnessed. "But who would believe us? Even with the footage, people might think it's fake." "That's why we need to be careful about how we handle this," Emma replied, her voice growing more confident as she formulated a plan. "We need experts to verify the footage, to analyze it properly before we go public." The lights of Grand Lake appeared in the distance, a welcome sight after our unnerving encounter. The small tourist town was quiet at this hour, but as Emma had predicted, the Lakeside Diner's neon Open 24 HRS sign glowed invitingly in the darkness. Emma pulled into the nearly empty parking lot and turned off the engine. Neither of us made a move to get out right away. "Before we check the footage, we need to decide what we're going to do if it actually shows what we think it does," I said, turning to face her. Emma tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, a habit she had when she was thinking deeply. My thesis advisor, Dr. Marshall, he's done some work in cryptozoology. Not officially, it's more of a hobby. But he has connections in the field. I think we should show him first, get his advice. It was a reasonable suggestion. Dr. Marshall was a respected wildlife biologist with a reputation for open-mindedness. If anyone could help us navigate this situation, it would be him. Okay, I agreed. But let's keep this between us until we talk to him. No social media, no telling friends or family. Emma nodded solemnly. Agreed. This is too important to mess up. With our preliminary plan in place, we finally felt ready to review the dashcam footage. Emma disconnected her phone from the car, and we headed into the diner, finding a booth in the far corner away from the few other late-night patrons. A tired-looking waitress approached our table, notepad in hand. "What'll it be?" "2 coffees, please," Emma said. "And maybe some pie?" The waitress nodded and shuffled off to fill our order. Once she was out of earshot, Emma placed her phone on the table between us, opening the Dashcam app. We huddled close, heads almost touching as she navigated to the most recent footage. "Here goes nothing," she murmured, pressing play. The video was surprisingly clear, considering it was shot at night. The Dashcam's night vision feature painted the scene in an eerie green glow, but the details were unmistakable. The empty highway stretched before us, the headlights illuminating the road and the surrounding forest. Then came the moment when Emma braked suddenly, and there it was. We watched in stunned silence as the creature appeared on screen. In the footage, it was even more impressive than in our memory. Its massive height made obvious as it stood in the middle of the highway, the deer carcass draped across its broad shoulders. The creature's face was now more visible, revealing a pronounced brow ridge and a surprisingly expressive, almost human-like visage that showed clear surprise at our sudden appearance. The video captured the moment perfectly. The creature's startled pause, its brief stare directly at our car, and then its remarkably agile retreat into the forest, somehow managing to keep hold of its deer prize. "Holy shit," I whispered, unable to tear my eyes away from the screen even after the creature had disappeared from view. "We actually got it." Emma replayed the footage, this time scrubbing through it more slowly, pausing at key moments. "Look, at the musculature," she said, her scientific training kicking in. "The proportions aren't human, but they're not like any known ape either. And the way it moves, it's not a man in a suit, Mike. No way." I had to agree. The fluid motion, the natural way it carried the deer, the anatomical details that were visible even in the night vision footage, it all pointed to something real, something unexplainable by conventional means. The waitress returned with our coffee and 2 slices of cherry pie, interrupting our analysis. We quickly turned off the phone, thanking her with forced casualness that probably came across as suspicious. Once she walked away, Emma took a sip of her coffee and leaned close to me. "We need to be in Boulder by tomorrow afternoon," she said, quietly. "Dr. Marshall will be in his office for Saturday office hours until 4 p.m. "That's cutting it close," I replied, glancing at my watch. It was already past 3 a.m., and Boulder was at least 3 hours away, back toward Denver. "What about our camping gear?" Emma considered this. "We can go back at first light to collect it, then head straight to Boulder. We should make it in time." Nodded, poking at my pie without much appetite. The weight of our discovery was sinking in, bringing with it a mixture of excitement and anxiety. We had just captured the most convincing evidence of Sasquatch ever recorded, but rather than feeling triumphant, I felt a strange sense of unease. "Emma," I said, lowering my voice even further, "do you think we should be worried? About the creature? I mean..." She seemed to understand my concern. "It didn't act aggressive, Mike. If anything, it seemed just as startled as we were, and it moved away from us, not toward us." "True," I acknowledged. But we're talking about a creature strong enough to carry a fully grown deer like it's nothing. What if it felt threatened? What if it decides we're a danger to it? Emma reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Hey, let's not get ahead of ourselves. For all we know, it's miles away by now, wanting nothing to do with humans. I hoped. She was right, but I couldn't shake the feeling that our encounter with the Sasquatch wasn't over. Something told me our lives had just changed in ways we couldn't yet understand, and there would be consequences we couldn't predict. As we finished our coffee and pie, we discussed our plan in more detail. We would wait until sunrise, around 6 a.m., then return to our campsite to collect our gear. After that, we'd drive straight to Boulder to meet with Dr. Marshall, hopefully arriving before his office hours ended. And then what? I asked. What if he confirms it's real? Emma stared into her coffee cup, as if searching for answers in the dark liquid. Then we make sure this discovery is handled properly. This isn't just about proving Bigfoot exists, Mike. If Sasquatches are real, they're an undiscovered species, possibly an unknown branch of hominids that have somehow remained hidden from science. We're talking about a discovery on par with finding living dinosaurs. The magnitude of what she was saying hit me. This wasn't just about a cool video that might go viral. This was potentially a world-changing scientific discovery. Whatever happens, I said, we're in this together. Emma smiled, though her eyes still showed traces of anxiety. Together, she agreed. We paid for our coffee and pie, then returned to the car. Neither of us felt like trying to sleep in the vehicle, so we decided to drive around Grand Lake for a while, killing time until sunrise. The small town was peaceful at night, its lakeside location offering stunning views of the water reflecting the starlight. "Come in," called a gruff voice from inside. Dr. Marshall was a bear of a man with a salt and pepper beard and piercing blue eyes. His office was cluttered with books, specimen jars, and what appeared to be plaster casts of various animal tracks. "Emma," he exclaimed, rising from his desk. "What brings you here on a Saturday? And who's this?" "This is my boyfriend, Mike," Emma replied. "And we have something incredible to show you, Dr. Marshall. Something that could change everything we know about North American wildlife." Dr. Marshall's eyebrows rose. "That's quite a claim. Let's see what you've got." Emma connected her phone to Dr. Marshall's computer monitor and played the footage. The professor's reaction was immediate. His eyes widened, and he leaned forward, in his chair, completely transfixed. When the video ended, he remained silent for several long moments, then rewound and watched it again. After the third viewing, he finally spoke. "Where and when was this recorded?" Emma explained our encounter in detail, finishing with the mysterious SUV that had followed us. Dr. Marshall's expression grew grave. "You were right to come to me first," he said quietly. "This footage, it's the clearest evidence I've ever seen. But it also puts you in danger." "Danger?" I repeated. "From who?" "There are powerful interests who don't want Sasquatch to be proven real," he explained. "Government agencies, private research foundations, they've been studying these creatures for decades in secret." "But why keep it secret?" Emma asked. "This would be the zoological discovery of the century." "Think about it," Dr. Marshall said. "If Sasquatch exists, it represents either an undiscovered great ape in North America, which would rewrite our understanding of primate evolution, or worse, an unknown hominin species, possibly with human-level intelligence. The ethical and legal implications would be enormous." "So what do we do?" I asked, feeling increasingly out of my depth. Dr. Marshall stroked his beard thoughtfully. "I have contacts, other researchers who've been documenting Sasquatch evidence privately. We need to get this footage analyzed by experts, establish its authenticity beyond doubt." He turned to his computer and began typing rapidly. "I'm sending emails now. In the meantime, you two should go somewhere safe. The people who followed you, if they're who I think they are, they won't give up easily." "We can't just hide," Emma protested. This discovery belongs to science, to the world, and it will be shared, Dr. Marshall assured her. But we need to do this right. No leaks, no premature announcements. As we debated our next move, a sharp knock at the office door made us all jump. Before anyone could respond, the door swung open, revealing two men in dark suits, unmistakably similar to the men who had followed us earlier. Dr. Robert Marshall? The taller of the two asked, though it clearly wasn't a question. We're from the Department of Interior, Wildlife Resource Management Division. We need to speak with you and your guests about a matter of national security. Dr. Marshall stood, positioning himself between us and the newcomers. I don't recall any such division existing within the DOI, he said coldly. And I'm in the middle of a meeting with my student. Perhaps you could come back later? The men stepped fully into the office, closing the door behind them. That won't be possible, Doctor. We're aware of the recording these two made last night, and we're here to confiscate it. On what grounds? Emma demanded, her voice stronger than I expected given the circumstances. Unauthorized documentation of protected species in a federal wilderness area, the shorter man replied smoothly. It's a serious offense, Dr. Marshall scoffed. That's ridiculous. There's no legal precedent. Doctor, the taller man interrupted. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. The recording, please. I noticed Dr. Marshall subtly press something under his desk, an alarm perhaps, before stepping forward to confront the men. I think you gentlemen should leave, he said firmly. Campus security is already on their way. The men exchanged glances, clearly weighing their options. The standoff lasted only seconds before the office door burst open again. But it wasn't campus security. A woman with short gray hair and intense eyes entered, flanked by two younger men who looked more like park rangers than government agents. These two are imposters, she announced, producing an official-looking badge. Dr. Marshall, I'm Special Agent Linda Carter, Actual Department of Interior Wildlife Protection Unit. These men have been impersonating federal officers across 3 states. The ensuing confusion worked to our advantage. As the real federal agents detained the imposters, Dr. Marshall quickly ushered Emma and me out a back exit. As we drove slowly along the shore, I couldn't help but wonder what other secrets these mountains might hold. If a creature as large and distinctive as a Sasquatch could remain largely undocumented despite decades of searches, what else might be out there, hidden from human knowledge? The eastern sky was just beginning to lighten when Emma turned the car back toward our abandoned campsite. The pre-dawn light gave the forest an ethereal quality, mist rising from the ground and swirling around the tree trunks like ghostly figures. Ari. To go back? Emma asked as we approached the turnoff to the Forest Service Road. I took a deep breath, surprised by my own nervousness. Ready as I'll ever be. As Emma guided the Subaru down the rough road, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, that somewhere in the dense forest surrounding us, a pair of ancient eyes was tracking our movement, curious about the strange creatures who had witnessed its nighttime hunt. Little did we know, this was just the beginning of an adventure that would test our beliefs, our courage, and our relationship in ways we never could have imagined. The footage on our Dashcam was about to plunge us into a world of secrecy, danger, and discovery, a world where the line between science and legend blurred, and where not everyone wanted the truth to come to light. The drive back to our abandoned campsite felt longer than it should have, each bend in the road amplifying our anxiety. When we finally arrived, everything looked exactly as we'd left it, our tent still standing, our cooler untouched. It was almost disappointing in its ordinariness. Let's pack up quickly, Emma said, scanning the surrounding forest nervously. We worked efficiently, dismantling the tent and stuffing our gear into the car. Within 15 minutes, we were back on the road heading toward Boulder, the rising sun painting the mountains in golden light. Should we watch the footage again? I asked once we hit the main highway. Emma nodded, connecting her phone to the car's display system. You drive, I'll analyze. As I navigated the winding mountain roads, Emma scrutinized the dashcam footage frame by frame. "Mike, this is incredible," she breathed. "Look at the muscle definition in its shoulders, the proportions of its limbs. This isn't human, but it's definitely a primate of some kind." I glanced at the screen when the road allowed. The creature was even more impressive on the larger display, its massive size obvious as it stood in the middle of the highway with the deer. "What are those on its neck?" I asked, noticing what appeared to be dark lines or markings. Emma zoomed in. "They look like scars or some kind of tribal markings. This suggests intelligence, culture." The implications were staggering. Not just an unknown animal, but potentially an intelligent species with its own society. We were so engrossed in analyzing the footage that we almost missed the black SUV that had appeared in our rearview mirror. It had been following us for at least 20 minutes, maintaining the same distance regardless of our speed. "Emma," I said quietly, "don't look now, but I think we're being followed." Her eyes flicked to the side mirror. "The black Suburban? You sure?" "Pretty sure. It's been behind us since we left the park boundary." Emma saved the footage and disconnected her phone. "Maybe it's just a coincidence. Lots of people drive SUVs in the mountains." I wanted to believe that, but instinct told me otherwise. "Let's test it. I'm going to take the next exit and see if they follow." Sure enough, when I veered onto the exit ramp, the SUV followed. My heart rate quickened. "Okay, that's definitely suspicious," Emma admitted. "What do we do?" "Head for a public place," I decided, turning onto a busier road that led to a small tourist town. They're less likely to try anything with witnesses around. We pulled into a crowded breakfast diner parking lot and found a spot near the entrance. The SUV drove past slowly, the driver's face hidden behind dark sunglasses despite the early hour. They parked at the far end of the lot, engine still running. "Who are they?" Emma whispered. "Government? Some kind of research organization?" "I don't know, but I don't think we should stick around to find out." I started the car again. "Let's take back roads to Boulder. We need to get to Dr. Marshall." We managed to lose our tail after a series of complicated turns through residential neighborhoods, but the encounter left us shaken. Who knew about our footage already? How had they found us so quickly? The rest of the drive to Boulder was tense, both of us constantly checking the mirrors for any sign of pursuit. We arrived at the university just after 3 p.m., with less than an hour of Dr. Marshall's office hours remaining. Emma led me through the biology building to a door marked Dr. Robert Marshall, Ph.D., Wildlife Biology. She knocked tentatively. "Those weren't government men, but private contractors," he whispered urgently. "Linda is an old friend. She'll handle them, but you need to go. Now." He handed Emma a small USB drive. "I copied your footage. Take this to the address I've written." "Here. It's a research facility in Montana run by trusted colleagues. They'll help authenticate the video and protect you both." Before we could ask more questions, Dr. Marshall pushed us toward the exit. "Go. I'll contact you when it's safe." We fled to our car and drove north, following Dr. Marshall's cryptic directions. The journey took us deep into Montana's wilderness, eventually arriving at what appeared to be an ordinary research station nestled in a secluded valley. Inside, however, was anything but ordinary. The facility was a hub of Sasquatch research, staffed by scientists who had been secretly studying these creatures for years. They welcomed our footage with awe, immediately beginning the process of authentication. Over the next few days, we learned the truth. Sasquatches were real, an ancient species of intelligent hominids that had evolved in parallel with humans, maintaining their secrecy through extraordinary adaptability and intelligence. The scars we'd seen on our Sasquatch were indeed tribal markings, indicating it belonged to a clan that roamed the Rocky Mountains. More shocking was discovering who had been pursuing us. Not the government trying to hide Sasquatch existence, but a private biotech corporation seeking to exploit Sasquatch DNA for military applications. The real government agents had been tracking this corporation for months, and our footage had inadvertently exposed their operation. Within weeks, our Authenticated footage became the cornerstone of a controlled scientific disclosure. The world learned about Sasquatch not through blurry, contested photos, but through irrefutable, carefully presented evidence that forced acknowledgement from even the most skeptical scientists. Emma was invited to co-author the definitive paper on Sasquatch biology, while I documented our experience in a book that became an international bestseller. More importantly, the revelation led to protected status for Sasquatch territories and a new era of respectful, distant observation rather than intrusive research. As for the Sasquatch that changed our lives, we saw it once more, a year later, while visiting a newly established observation point in Rocky Mountain National Park. It stood at the forest edge, watching us with those same intelligent eyes. This time, there was no surprise, no fear, just quiet acknowledgement between two intelligent species sharing the same world. Some discoveries change science. Others change humanity's understanding of its place in the natural order. Ours did both, reminding everyone that the world still holds mysteries beyond our imagination, and that sometimes the legends are true. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.